Greetings everybody and welcome back to another Warhammer lore video. Please feel free to subscribe if you enjoy Warhammer content. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if you didn't like it, but let me know how I can improve down in the comment section below. And comment anything that you'd like to see me do next, or just let me know if I'm doing a pretty okay job. Because that's all I shoot for, is a pretty okay job. Very quick announcement before I get into the lore video is I will also be doing reviews and mild spoilers for some of the Warhammer 40k books. I'll start by giving an opinion and I'll save the spoilers for the end of the video, so anyone who doesn't want slight or major things spoiled about the books, they can go read it for themselves. The first one I'm going to be doing is The Rise of Horus, which is the first book in the Horus Heresy series of books. So stay tuned for that. But today, we'll get right into the meat potatoes of it. We are talking about the man himself. The person who is an expert on orc psychology, orc culture, and even the orcish language. Probably the apex predator of any type of orc that is out there. That would be Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. Now, to start from the very beginning, being born as a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young man on the planet of Teos 3, his parents died because nobody in Warhammer 40k can have a good childhood. It's the grimdark future. What did you expect? But there is slightly a silver lining. He was taken in by his grandfather, who was a veteran of the Astra Militarum and retired at the rank of sergeant, which is unheard of. Throughout his childhood, Sebastian was taught by his grandfather the ways of the orcs, how to lay traps, how to use subtlety and subterfuge and stealth in order to sneak behind enemy lines, stay undiscovered, and also take out your enemies without them knowing your position, which would actually come in great handy because his planet was then attacked by orcs, and he has been an orc slayer ever since. As pretty much the sole survivor of the entire section of his planet that he was in, he was able to survive killing orcs, staying hidden, and feasting off of all of the little squigs that he could come across. Until, of course, reinforcements arrived. Then he was taken in and sent to the Officer Perfectus, which is where they train all of their commissars. And then all of the wars that he was in took him to places like Necromunda and Luther McIntyre, and then, of course, Armageddon, which is pretty much where Sebastian Yarrick's fame started coming in. Originally, he was Sebastian Varden, but he took Yarrick, which was his grandfather's name, as his surname out of respect for his grandfather. Once he was on Armageddon, though, he had a bit of a butting heads match with the incompetent waste of flesh that was his commander. So his commander just decided, fuck it, I'm gonna send you over to Hades, which was one of the hive cities, or hive fleets, on Armageddon. Due to also the incompetence of his commander, who was proceeding over the entire planet pretty much almost came entirely under orcish control during the Second War of Armageddon. Now, at this point, Yarrick now sees the green tide just coming down the hill, and it's pretty much entirely up to him. All he has to do is hold out until reinforcements come. And that's exactly what he did. During this fight, he actually did go up against an orc war boss, 1-to-1, toe-to-toe, man to orc, mono and mushroom. At this point, Sebastian Yarrick loses his right arm to the orc. However, with his left hand still remaining and a sword, he cuts off the orc's head and takes the orc's power claw for himself, and then has it reattached. Among his other cybernetic implants, he also has a red eye. Now, there's kind of conflicting stories from what I've read that some say it's actually a laser eye. Some say it's just a regular prosthetic eye, Warhammer 40k style. But since the orcs believe that he's such a gigantic ballsack having boss, that it does shoot lasers, and they affectionately call him Old Bale Eye. In fact, Ghazghkull, during the second invasion of Armageddon, sees Sebastian Yarrick as a truly worthy opponent, and goes on to the forefront of the battle just to get a glimpse of his opponent and how this one human is routing all of these other humies in order to hold his tide at bay and actually gain some ground. Eventually, during the Second War of Armageddon, the Blood Angels do arrive and relieve the withered and beaten Astra Militarum and the Imperial Guard to lay rest, retake the planet, and Ghazghul actually ends up retreating and leaving. The funniest thing about Sebastian Yarrick's whole ordeal in the Second War of Armageddon is the fact that the day the war kicked off, Sebastian Yarrick was actually about to retire. The most classic case of, I'm 2 days from retirement and some fuck shit happens. That's exactly what happened to Sebastian Yarrick. Now, during the time of the Third War of Armageddon, Sebastian Yarrick has already been in retirement. Once he hears that Ghazghul Thraka is now back on Armageddon and wreaking havoc, he comes out of retirement just to beat some greenskin ass once more. In fact, Ghazghul is thrilled about this, whereas Sebastian feels like he has a personal vendetta to just go and beat the ever-loving hell out of a bunch of orcish mushroom booty cheeks. Ghazghul is excited. Ghazghul truly views Sebastian Yarrick as a worthy and amazing opponent, and someone that there's no greater honor or fun than meeting them on the battlefield. Which is apropos for orcs, because they love nothing more than a good fight. Now, there was a point within the Wars of Armageddon where Sebastian Yarrick would be captured. He would actually be captured during Golgotha, which was specifically a trap laid out by Ghazghul to either capture or kill Yarrick. They actually ended up managing to capture Yarrick and put him on a Space Hulk, which is just a giant fuck-off asteroid that the orcs use as their planetary travel. That they just kind of hop in this asteroid, and 9 times out of 10 they actually just crash it into the planet they're invading, because fuck it, we're the orcs, and that's our landing system. However, once he gets there, he comes to consciousness after being knocked out. He sees Ghazghul, and he's hanging up on chains with none of his cybernetics attached to him. He gets dropped into a garbage chute and actually survives. It's not clear how long he survives, but he kills a lot of the squigs down there that he uses their quills to fashion a way out of the garbage chute. Now, of course, Ghazghul is waiting there, because something about war bosses and leaders of war bands, and especially leaders of the WA in orc culture, is that the bigger they get, the stronger they get, but also the smarter they get. So he had big brain, and he was waiting for Sebastian Yarrick to come back out. So then they capture him again while he's still on this Space Hulk, and throw him with a bunch of the human slaves that the orcs currently have on the ship. Of course, being who he is, he rallies all of the human slaves behind him, and Sebastian Yarrick now just has his own army again. So, as they're fighting through, the slaves keep dying, and the humans that are behind Sebastian Yarrick keep dying. And their only goal, as well as Sebastian Yarrick's only goal, is to either take down the Space Hulk or kill Ghazghul Thraka. Because if you cut the head off the snake, at least in normal terms, then the body dies. Which probably would have worked, but they weren't able to do it. All Sebastian Yarrick was able to do was blow up a huge chunk of the Space Hulk, and whereas he did survive, he was again knocked unconscious. Keep in mind, this man is probably well within his 60s, and not in great peak shape, but he's out here just fucking killing it. I mean, slaughtering it. So, once he comes to, all of his cybernetics are completely reattached, and he wakes up to the raucous cry of a bunch of orcs who are just cheering him on and ready for everything. But they're not attacking him, they're celebrating. They're celebrating because they just truly know that he's a badass. So they take him and escort him to Ghazghul Thraka, who's sitting on his throne room in the Space Hulk. Now, Sebastian Yarrick is obviously feeling like, this is the end. This is it. I'm gonna die. But he's a fucking stone cold little bitch, and he does not let it show. He keeps walking up to Ghazghul, and Ghazghul go ahead and points to a ship and says, get on the ship, get back to Armageddon, and get ready for the fight of the lifetimes. Sebastian Yarrick, of course, thinking that this is a trap, goes, "This is a fucking trap." And in High Gothic, Ghazghkull Thraka looks to him and says, "It's not a trap. Good enemies are hard to find." Sebastian Yarrick then gets on the ship, goes down to Armageddon, and rallies anyone and everyone, all of the artillery, all of the men, all of the weapons, everything that he can find in order to face the impending threat of the orcs. Now, at this point, the orcs have to leave because Ghazghkull says that he's getting a message from Gork and Mork, and Sebastian Yarrick gives chase. There is a disparaging of if Sebastian Yarrick is still alive. Personally, I'd like to think he is. A lot of people think that he isn't alive because shortly after the orcs left, Chaos came back because they started the first War of Armageddon. And Angron and his World Eaters came in, and when Ghazghkull came back to Armageddon, what he saw was Angron, the Demon Prince, with a skull in his necklace of skulls that had a red prosthetic eye. Now, Ghazghkull was already a force to be reckoned with. Now he's a force to be reckoned with because he has the greatest opponent ever that is so fun to fight that he wants to do it again and again and again. And now, he was now stripped of his ability to kill Sebastian Yarrick in his mind, so now he and his entire WA are throwing every single thing that they can at Angron. The reason I don't want Sebastian Yarrick to be dead yet is because, that's a shit way to go, like, off camera. I would much rather him die as, like, a final rebuttal to the orcs. Even if Ghazghkull Thraka stays alive and isn't killed, if he just completely kicks his ass to where Ghazghkull doesn't even really want Armageddon anymore, and Sebastian Yarrick ends up dying of his wounds, I think that'd be a much better way to go. Or even if they kill off Ghazghkull Thraka and Sebastian Yarrick in one final epic showdown moment. But that's just me. Warhammer 40k doesn't always give us what we want, but it's still pretty cool. Let me know what you think about Sebastian Yarrick, and also let me know who else you'd like me to cover, what else you'd like me to cover. I've thought about branching out into more things like Star Wars, or any other type of fantasy lore, or video game lore, like the BioShock series, which is one of my favorite series, or even the Borderlands series, even though it's old, and I don't know how the TV show or movie, whichever one it is going to turn out, but still, I could do that for you guys. Also, let me know if you'd like more gaming content and what kind of games you'd like to see me play. And as always, I'll catch y'all in the next one.